Good morning and welcome to PMLC Global Nexus, where we're coming here live to you today to talk about our Beyond the Buzz strategic PMO leadership in the age of practical AI implementation. And with me today, I have my co host, Dr. Jimmy Godard, joining the stage here with me. And we want to welcome you to our segment today where we're talking about the practical AI implementation. Good morning, Dr. Jimmy. How are you?
Hello, good morning, Dr. Susie. Doing well, doing great, and it's also a pleasure to be here with you as well to talk about this wonderful topic. We're talking about beyond the buzz, so we're not making noise here. So we're talking about how strategic PMO leadership should behave in the age of practical AI implementation. And Dr. Susie, as you know, I'm very passionate about this topic
Yeah.
because we are really at this inflection point for years, many people in PMO will agree that we talk about PMO being a strategic partner, and for many, it's been a battle, right? What's the value of the PMO? Some organizations have it, some organizations do not have it, but practically speaking, accessible I would say is really a catalyst that will make the value of the PMO a reality. We have to be done with this notion PMO staying in the back room running reports to bring PMO to the boardroom, for strategy. And having said that, today we have a guest with us,
Yes, we
right?
do. Yeah. And I'm so happy. There were a few things that you said in your intro this morning. And I know that this is one of your most passionate topics that we're going to discuss today. And I'm so excited for the guests that we have with us. And I know that this is a shift in the industry for all of us, but with the expertise that our guest is bringing with us this morning, Debony Lewis. We are so excited to have her here with us today. And she's going to be shedding a lot of insight from some of the things that she's been studying day by day, as well as living in the real practical world of project management and her day to day responsibilities as well. So, Debony, we welcome you here with us today. And we are so excited to have you join us. And just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you have going on.
Yes, thank you all so much. I'm really excited to be here. I am currently in a role of a senior project manager. I work for a Fortune 500 health insurance company, and so I've had about a decade of experience working alongside senior leadership and within a PMO. So I definitely have that practical vantage point here. Also, I've been doing a lot of studying of AI through MIT, and so I'm really excited to just bring that perspective to this conversation and get some questions going.
Yeah, this is going to be so exciting. And we are very excited to have you here with us this morning. And I'm just really interested in some of the viewpoints that you're going to bring and share with us on stage today as we talk about this age of practical AI implementation. Dr. Jimmy, I know that we have a focus on PMO leadership, but I'm going to even step outside the box because I think that this discussion is going to morph even into how we look at practical AI implementation across the entire organization. And that will range from strategy to execution, even throughout the outcomes of what it is that we're looking for in terms of deliverables and moving forward within our organizations. And in some ways, in order for us to do this, we have to consider, a starting point, right? So looking at how organizations will incorporate this into their daily practices, there has to be some level of compliance that we're looking at, right? So as we're talking about this broader discussion, compliance considerations for AI utilizations within these organizations usually will incorporate some type of data privacy laws or compliance standards that the organizations will need to consider. What are some of you guys' thoughts around those compliance initiatives that we may have to consider in the organizational space?
Yeah, Dr. Z, I mean, I can give, as a matter of fact, I think, Debony, this really applies to you very well because you're in the healthcare industry. I'm pretty sure you have private information identifier that may be relevant to this conversation. And through my former days in banking, right? So it's a matter of how do we leverage artificial intelligence, whether it's generative AI, with all the other ones that we can name, and still preserve the information of the confidential information and also proprietary information. And then it's a catch-22. We don't want the tool to take those information to learn from them, but at the same time, we want the tool to get better every single day. So it's a question is how much information can I let the tool play with to get better? And what is also the risk of me getting those data privacy by letting the tool access that kind of information? Devony, what are your thoughts on that when it comes to the healthcare industry? Having people privacy information. How can an organization dab into bringing new large language models into their environment and at the same time create this firewall between uh, their their customers' confidential information, not to get into the AI tool, but at the same time, I'm asking myself, maybe if the tool had access to it, the tool could have even make things better, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a complex question, right? Because we've got to first think about what industry you're working within. If we say healthcare, of course, you've got HIPAA laws that you have to comply with. And that's going to be a pretty big hurdle for, I think, healthcare industries to contend with when we think of utilizing AI, because we don't have any currently national laws or regulations that are going to really be that guiding post to say this is the parameters in which data can be used and transferred. So then that puts everything in the hands of an organization. And if an organization doesn't have the proper data governance or the proper, chief operating officers who are directed to handle these questions and are looking at how we're de-identifying any data and sharing that across different platforms, I think that the healthcare industry is looking at a monstrous hurdle to overcome. However, depending on the problem in which an organization is going to solve, which we'll get to, I know, a little bit later, there might be some smaller implementations that an organization, even within the healthcare field, can think of. And maybe it's not so much patient facing, but internal to internal resources data or efficiencies with internal workforce. So there could be some workarounds depending upon how an organization's wanting to implement this.
Yeah,
Now
and
that's
some
a
of
good one. And Dr. Susie, I'd like to hand it back to you.
the
Um, if we think about it, us human beings, we are flawed. Therefore, we want a machine to help us, and the machine can be flawed as well. However, we want to hold the machine accountable, if you will. So the question is really, is the machine that we want to hold accountable? Is it the people who write the code we want to hold accountable? Or is it us that feeds the machine data we want to hold accountable? So when we're talking about that takes us to ethics. You're talking about bias in fairness. You're talking about transparency, and explainability, accountability, responsibility, privacy and data security, social impact. Share with us, really, if we're to talk about ethical use of AI in project decisions.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Jimmy. Just a few points while you guys were going back and forth there. Things that came to mind around, the regulatory adherence and evolving legal landscapes around compliance is that, first let me address this. And that is that some teams, they must not only ensure the adherence to current laws, but also the proactive monitoring and the legislative developments to add policies and technical controls before the mandates even take place within the organization, right? Some of the points that we can consider around the ethical practices as it relates to like governance and maybe even risk mitigation within the organization is how compliance extends beyond those legal obligations to include the ethical stewardship of AI systems in general. So some organizations, as we take a look at this more closely, they must implement the governance frameworks that will help to keep that accountability moving forward within that organization. Also assessing those risks that are related to the bias and the fairness and some of the explainability that we may even want to consider in these realms, and the transparency throughout the organization. So how are people working? What messages are being conveyed? How is it being used to support the organization? This would also include them conducting regular bias and fairness audits of the different AI models that we may want to introduce into the organization, as well as documenting the model decision-making processes to support explainability for regulatories, stakeholders, and other end users that may use the tools or be involved in working within the models of AI, but also establishing escalation paths for high-risk findings, ensuring leadership intervention where needed, and also aligning AI development with their recognized ethical principles, such as those from the IEE or the ISO methods. Like there was even one that I noticed during my reading this morning for the ISO 40,000 series, right? So I only know about like the 27,000 series, but there's like so much going on. There are other, GPTs coming forth, like version 5 is out now, right? So there are so many intricate parts to this that I think as we continue to grow, it will organically come about in terms of how things will become regulated, how we will be more accountable within organizations with the utilization of AI.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, let me just bring this. The other day, as a matter of fact, I posted this on LinkedIn, and which has to do with the machine is trying to prevent us from shutting it down. And the machine was able, or the code, the algorithm, if you will, was able to go into the developer's email and tell the developer, if you try to shut me down, I'm going to tell your wife you're having an affair. I was like, I'm like, okay, so now we know, the general AI is, is at the door knocking. But at the same time, I'm asking myself, are we there yet? Are we there where the machine can really get to the point to give us something, to do something like that, to become more sentient? So is there really a disconnect between those AI hypes versus execution reality? So the example that I give may be more on the fringes, but Devaney, as you are I would say you're in the forefront of learning from an academic perspective of all those new things coming up. And also you're in the middle of it doing your day work. Is AI, are we talking about hype here still? I mean, should we still be talking about AI hype, or should we get to this notion, hey, everybody wake up. This is reality. This thing is not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, if you think, for me, if you think this thing is going somewhere, I mean, it's going to be a fad, you will be the one to become a fad. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. I tell people so far, it's not going anywhere. I would not encourage anyone to imagine the day where AI is not in the picture since it's been introduced. A question that I received recently is, if you were to put AI and the internet on a timeline, where in the internet's development and recognition in the world are we in the stage on the AI side? And I would say we're probably around like 1999, 2000s. Everyone is seeing that this is a tool in which we could use, but we're still just scratching the surface on what it can do and how it's going to really be productive in a work environment and not a tool for us to kind of, to your point, play around on, and the AI is going to, make some jabs at you. I think we're still there. We're still trying to accept it, that it's a reality, but we're still not sure exactly how we're implementing it from a business strategy perspective. And I think one thing to point out here is that it's critical for however an organization decides to implement AI, that it aligns with the strategy of the organization. Because where we are within the AI development, it being so new and people using it for everything, it can become a little distraction. people think, oh, I'll just use it for this, that, and the other, and we'll just throw it in here, AI to help me with my emails and this, that, and the other. Where as an organization, you have to ask yourself, what is our strategy and how can AI actually help me get there? Whether it's efficiency, whether it is filling in a gap, and not let it be a distraction for organizations while they're figuring out how to implement this tool.
Yeah. And with that being said, Devaney, one of the things that comes to mind from your professional opinion, I would like to hear about is, do you consider this when we're looking at, strategy versus the actual execution of things? Is it more of like what problem are we trying to solve versus more of how AI can be utilized to support organizations with their operating efficiencies? How are we kind of tailoring that and looking at bringing that into the build of the organization overall?
Oh, what a good question. I think that either way, you are going to be solving for something. Now, whether you're solving for a specific problem or you are driving efficiencies, there's still a solution that you're trying to get to. And AI is only going to perform as well as the data that you have to put into AI, whether you are doing a large language model, such as ChatGPT, or you're executing it in a narrow AI form, a chat box form, a manager form where, we've got an example you could use is like traffic lights. They have some logic behind their scenes as well, right? However you're utilizing it, you are going to have to identify very specifically what the problem is.
Mhm.
And that is going to require you to have a good amount of data for testing, and then an even bigger amount of data for validation, if you will, because we have to be able to build something, test it with accuracy, and then validate the accuracy of those tests. And I think that's where we start to find some of the complications of implementing this tool. If we don't have the right amount of data, if we're not very specific about what we're trying to solve, we could find ourselves with some of the real key limitations that I definitely want us to be aware of. I think
Mhm.
that if we go back to the first question, the hype versus the execution, right
Mhm.
now AI is hyped. Everyone is talking about it. It seems so great and grand, and that in which it is. However, there are some pretty big limitations that I think we should consider. Hallucinations, just if you have used GPT and you ask it a bunch of questions, it has the ability to make inferences based on just all of its data that it's collected. And sometimes that's not really based in reality. So you have to have a user that has the resources to validate whether that output's correct. Also, we have to consider the training of the staff. We have to
Mhm.
consider compliance, as we've mentioned. We have to also consider what are the examples that we're utilizing to build the machine learning. So I just don't want us to think like, though, this is a great tool, I've got a problem, and now I can go forth and be merry. There's a lot of background work that has to be done in order to implement this correctly.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts around like some of the challenges of aligning like the AI implementation with the organizational strategy overall, and how organizations may become, more forward thinking in this area by embedding like the agility and continuous innovation by utilizing AI
Mhm.
more?
Ooh, that's a great question. I challenge every organization to ask themselves, what is their strategy? How how are they making an impact in whatever industry niche they have? So, are you a cost leader? Are you differentiating? Do you have a specific focus point, and you're tailoring your market and your products? If you can't answer that question, then you shouldn't be thinking about AI at this stage. I think you really need to take a step back and understand how you are introducing yourself in this market in the first place. That's going to help you if you can answer that question, what your strategy is. That's going to help you align AI with your strategy versus what I think people are fearful of having AI just come in and sweep and take over your job. Um, to the second part of your question,
Mhm.
how can organizations how I'm interpreting this question, how can organizations weave in this agility notion? Because also where we're at is AI is used for users. I could use it right now for my personal life, but from a business perspective, I might not know exactly how to implement or build an AI tool. So I think that it's going to be necessary that businesses start small one and start to explore how they can be agile in this. So don't think about the problem you're trying to solve as the one big thing for your industry, but think about one specific efficiency or small error that you're seeing constantly, or productivity thing that you can work on. And think about agile, like truest agile, 2-week sprints, a 1-month sprint, however your organization is, and start there, allowing for your team to learn, weaving in the time and space to introduce AI to your staff members, so it's also not a fear-mongering topic that's making people think that, oh, this is going to take over my job. Yeah, I think that's where I would start. And one thing I'll say before, I think I've got a couple questions for Dr. Goddard here, is in a study that has been done by MIT. They did a customer service study where an organization implemented AI for new hires, and they measured, productivity, the duration of calls, the customer service, how the customer actually, think about that call that they had. And they saw that AI helped really truncate the duration of those calls. The productivity, long story short, went up. All of those calls that AI helped with were trained by that organization's key performing people. And I mention that because when we think about, will AI replace my job? The only way AI is going to know how to do a job is based on an organization's performance, and there's those resources that perform well. So an organization really has to value their resources. They need to incentivize resources to work well and to train this model to help them, because we are at a stage where we're going to have to still have a human oversight. We're still going to need to have humans there to monitor, as you mentioned, Susie. So we're just not at a stage where AI is going to come in and replace you, but we still need to value our resources. So, yeah, and with that, I have the question that lingers in my mind from I'm on the ground. I work in tech and I work in insurance, and I think about I asked my manager this the other day, where is the organization going with AI? Is there an innovative think group that's happening in the organization? Are we doing some think tanks and testing? Because how are we going to weave this in? He said no, that this is just going to happen when it happens, such as the internet happened and then people grabbed onto it. So Jimmy, I'm curious, in your perspective, how can organizations actually start to roadmap AI integration? What would that look like, and how do we start?
Wow, that's a good question, Devaney. And oh my goodness, while you were talking, so many thoughts comes to my mind in terms of, you said it well, the people, and before I answer that question, I strongly believe and have data to back this up in the several research. And the latest one, I think what AI, not I really think, believe and have demonstrated, AI is going to create this bifurcation between the people who know, the people who know much will do better. The people who do not know much will gain a little. The people in the middle are the one that we're going to talk about. What is the value of AI to them? I see it's going to be a bell curve upside down. In other words, it's not going to be down and, a growth this way. It's going to be, I learn here. And then if I'm average at my job, most likely I'll probably use AI averagely. But if I'm great at my job, I'm probably going to have a lot to gain with AI. But going back to your question, the challenge is, what is the strategic PMO roadmap to AI integration. Just as you mentioned, a lot of people think it's going to be like the internet. And we talk about strategy, and you mentioned it, and I believe you said it well. Some companies don't even know what their strategy is. And they are struggling as far as if I were to ask them, what differentiates you from the rest? What differentiates you from your industry? What makes you unique? And how do you deliver your services to your customers in a unique way? And whether you're business leaders, whether you're PMO leaders, right now, I would say I'm sold on the why we have to do things, but I need the how. And what does strategic roadmap for AI integration actually look like? Where do we even begin? Because we talk a lot about it conceptually. I would like for us to talk more about it practically. And what I've learned, I've pretty much implemented that myself and also some other organizations. It's really to get your own house in order. I do it as an individual, I do it as a practitioner, and I also recommend PMO leaders to do it with their PMO. They need to educate. Education right now is number one. Now GPT-5 just came out. How many people are experts in GPT-5? Probably not much. So this is the time you educate yourself. This is the time you educate yourself. And for individuals that your organizations may not embrace AI right away, I would say it is your professional responsibility to learn AI at home, to play with the tool, ask it questions, get familiar with it. So once your organization says, yes, we have adopted it, now it's not the time that you're learning it. So education for me is number one, become an expert yourself. Now, you don't need to become a data scientist. I'm talking about understand what AI can and also what it cannot do, just like you mentioned earlier, Debony. And the other thing I will mention has to do with the internal applications. I have developed some applications myself when we're talking about agentic AI because I really want to understand this thing. But I would say businesses try to leverage one of those tools. Now, individuals is $20. Whether you go with ChatGPT, whether you go with Copilot, whether you go with Claude with Anthropic, whether you go to Gemini with Google, I mean, just select one. Whether you select Perplexity, you don't need all of them. Select one. In organizations, I would say you can go with some safe one. I'm not going to name vendors, but select one tool and try to get it inside of your organization to really get to understand it. Now, the natural language processing tools, they'll become so prevalent. You have AI tools now that's being created to hold people, to give people companionship. You can get an AI tool to be your banker, get an AI tool to help you with your medical thing. I mean, but golly, there are so many AI tools out there. This notion, this thing is going away. I'm sorry to tell people, okay, wake up. At the same time, I would say I'm not saying for you to open your bedroom and let AI get into it. That's not what I'm saying, pun intended. All I'm saying here is get to know the stinking tool so that when we're talking about strategy, it doesn't become this abstract thing we're talking about. We're talking about getting work done. That's the practical aspect. Dr. Susie, you are the practical queen, right? You get things done. What are your thoughts? How far away am I? Am I in the desert here? Am I the exile island?
No, not at all. And I was just sitting over here thinking, like, I may be aging myself with this statement, but that's like going back to when we first learned the DOS language, when computers first came out, when we had to type in the command C : and then the greater than. So I'm just like, oh my goodness, you think about how things will evolve and continue to grow and morph over time. And that's what I see here. One of the good points that I think that you did bring up is around the training, getting people prepared for the new direction of what will now become our new normal as we move forward. And one of the points that we discussed previously is how organizations are incorporating the training for generative AI and more of its common practices daily to get their staff, used to using the AI tool. But again, it still goes back to some of the compliance measures in terms of how organizations will use the tool. even in looking at the practical utilization of the tool within the organization. We highlighted throughout the discussion that there are, some companion tools that we use in project management in the PMO that have AI capability. But how many of the organizations are actually tapping into that capability that those tools have? Do they even know where to begin? And that comes back to the root of training. We have to start there to train up our resources so that they get more comfortable, they become more confident in using these AI tools and its capabilities within their everyday practices. Debony, you're on the ground a lot in this, in today's age. What are some of your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think about this quite often because from a project manager's perspective, I see there being a lot of potential for the use of AI, especially just in a generative manner. It doesn't necessarily need to be a whole new tool created specifically for project managers. I think that there could be a reality in which AI is utilized for developing executive summaries. I mean, I think that there could be some real practical implications of our implementations, excuse me, from a timeline perspective, where we have shifting timelines and competing timelines. There's a lot of manual work that has to be done in a project manager field to congregate all of that information from multiple different spreadsheets. All of that is just data. Can I not ask an AI in a very specific prompt to help me understand where is the intersect between these two projects, or where should I be most concerned? I think that there are some really creative ways in which project managers can use this tool to help the job be more interesting and be more effective, honestly. When we think about how a project manager operates in an organization, sometimes it feels very reactionary. And the whole premise of a project manager is to help shepherd a project from start to finish. And if I'm always behind the eight ball because I'm learning information after, and I can't help myself predict something moving forward, I'm always going to be challenged. So I think we, to your point, can start to explore some practical implications. I can't say that word today, of this tool. And I hope that PMOs can be forward thinking and trailblazing, because generally also a project manager is not the resource dealing with data in a public manner. We're not getting data that's specific to a patient. We're not necessarily seeing the bank transactions for individuals. We are shepherding the overarching large implementation. Jeez, why is it not happening today? of a program or a SaaS project or something of that nature. So I challenge those PMO leaders to really think about that, and allow for that type of play to occur, even if it's a test project. That's we should try to make room for those types of test products or projects or workflows, so that organizations can move forward, versus always just thinking about what we need to solve right now for this one specific product line, and always kind of being behind the eight ball.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Jimmy, as Devaney was talking about, some of the implementations that we're looking at, I'm more curious around how these AI implementations will actually align with the strategic outcomes by developing metrics that measure both the performance and the purpose for its utilization within the organization.
Yeah, now I'm always about numbers, and Devin, while you were talking, so many things comes to my mind, and I'm thinking PMO being reactive versus strategic, and how can we be reactive when you see AI to be just another tool for efficiency, if you're looking at it from that lens? So definitely it's going to be a reactive PMO. So you may ask the question, can I use AI to generate RAG status reports 5% faster than what I'm used to? Is it about optimizing existing bureaucracy processes that we have today? Those are really just about keeping keeping scorecards with a fancier spreadsheet. Now AI becomes that portion, versus you can be more on the strategic side of AI, use AI tools for, I would say, effective transformation. By effective transformation, I mean real value that you can see something change. For me, I'm thinking, can I use the AI to analyze, since I was in the financial industry, market trends and what is our internal capabilities to predict which projects will have the highest ROI, helping us build a more valuable portfolio. If I can use AI and a PMO to get me to that answer, I think I'm setting myself more for success. Can I use the tool more from a predictive risk model to not just flag risk, but also to prescribe specific data-backed mitigation strategies? Can I use our resource management AI to simulate impact of pulling a key developer of a project onto a project from project A to project B, showing the ripple effect on timelines and budget and strategic goal alignment? Can I use AI to come up with those practical things? Now, the beauty of this, what I find to be very fascinating at the PMO level, this is not a role, I would say, a reporting guru within the PMO. This is something that even the business, by business, I mean the stakeholder that requests the project, can do as well. And to address the metric component, Dr. Suzanne, I believe this is where the rubber meets the road. For decades, PMOs have been measured on performance metric, what we call the how metrics. Things like schedule performance index, right? The SPI. You have cost performance index, percentage of projects delivered on time and on budget. I mean, those are good because the numbers don't lie. So I would say these are very important, but they measure the efficiency of the project process. They don't measure if the project actually delivered any value. I'm very focused on the value. You can give me all the numbers in the world. You can have watermelon projects, meaning it's green on the outside, red on the inside, right? So those don't really matter. So I would say AI forces us to elevate this conversation and focus more on purpose metrics, the why metrics. These are tied directly to your strategic objective. The magic happens when you link them together. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say about the old way, we completed the CRM integration project, I would say 10% under budget. Great. So what? Right? Now let's talk about now performance and purpose. We will implement an AI-powered tools, leading scoring model in our new CRM. Let's say we will measure the model's predictive accuracy, about 95%, and the project's adherence to a 6-month timeline. Let's say, so we're talking about purpose metric. This initiative will directly support our corporate strategic goal of increasing, let's say, fourth quarter revenue by 15%. Then we will measure success by the increase in sales conversion rate for AI qualified leads and the reductions in the sales cycle duration. You see, the true metrics, you get into the details, not just the superficial. And for me, PMO is not just about reporting on budget. It's not just about reporting on schedule. It's not just about reporting on customer satisfaction or scope. They are reporting our AI project delivered on schedule, performance, resulted 20% increase in lead conversion, purpose, directly contributing 5% to the company, 15% revenue growth to this quarter. That's the conversation I would say that we need to start focusing on when we're talking about AI. Let's leave those superficial things out there because we can do that with Excel spreadsheet. Let's get in the weeds. Let's get the real value add those AI tools, can bring to us for us to set ourselves apart from the rest.
I agree. And I'm taking a look at some of the questions that we have coming in from our audience. And one interesting point here is if we could actually explain or address the origins of AI. How did this all begin? Where did we start? What is our genesis to this mysterious tool, right? That's so very interesting, but yet so very powerful. as we're beginning to morph it into our day-to-day practices within organizations. Debony, what are some of your thoughts about the origins of AI?
Yeah, the origins of AI date back to the 1950s, believe it or not. So this is not a new conversation by any means. If anyone is interested, we had the Turing's test. Alan Turing's was really one of the quote fathers, if you will, of AI. And there was a lot of energy spawned around this topic up until around the 1980s, and then we found a plateau. And that's because people actually started to use it. They started to try to implement AI models in the 80s, and they felt that there were just few things that AI at the time could do that humans could not do better. And so it really stalled out until, believe it or not, this guy named Steve Jobs and this company named Apple came along. And in 2010, Siri was one of the first AI as we know it, as far as this generative, it's going to help me solve things. Now, if you want to take it back to traffic lights having logic and chat bots, we had those absolutely. But from a daily integration of life, as far as an end user interacting with it purposefully, that did not come until around the 2010s. And so it's been about a 60, 70-year journey through AI's development. And we're just, like I said, cracking the surface of all of its capabilities.
Yeah, and I think Siri got a sister named Alexa or
Something like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hearing Debony is saying for the millennials out there, you guys did not invent AI. I'm just saying. And also, it is really a disservice because I believe the vendor community who wants to sell AI so much, but they label AI. I just hope that they get a little bit more prescriptive or descriptive in their in their product selling. Sell me robotic process automation, sell me natural language processing, sell me generative AI. Don't just sell me AI, because then our youngsters think it's AI. Hey, listen, you have AI on your phone, you have AI on your watch. We are using this thing already, but for some reason we're scared of using it. We already give artificial intelligence tools all of our medical data, but for some reason we're scared of using it. They already tell us our finance. For some reason, we're scared of using. I mean, to your point, this thing was not born yesterday, so use it.
Agreed.
Hey, Dr. Jimmy, we have another question coming in, and it's talking about what are the most common misalignments between AI projects and broader organizational strategies, and how could these be preempted?
Yeah, that's a good one. Misalignment. We have a lot of, I would say at the beginning, and I think it's still today, the misalignment of AI projects and organizational strategy. I say to be, as a matter of fact, threefold. The first one, you have companies today that have embraced AI tools and paid vendors to come build them LLMs. I mean, also can bring, for instance, robotic process automation where they automate, which is very mature this day. They bring those tools in-house. They get things to be more efficient. You also have companies like Microsoft getting 30% of their codes being written by AI. You also have Walmart, which is at the forefront and implementing AI tools. I mean, I can go on and on and on. However, for every single great story about AI we hear, there are a lot of bad stories we do not hear. We do not hear about Zillow algorithm that make them purchase a lot of houses and then do not get anything done. We do not hear about, I believe it's Uber coming with autonomous vehicle that get a crash and all of a sudden project went down. As I mentioned, there's a lot of good news and also there's a lot of bad news. Having said that, I believe companies now stuck in this notion, how do I bring AI into my organization? As I mentioned earlier, first of all, they don't know their strategic directions very well. Some of them do, but some not, some don't. And if you don't take my word for it, on Monday, get to the office, ask anybody in your team, what is the strategic direction for my company? You will find out a lot of, and I do this with many organizations, a lot of organizations pay a lot of money, bring consultant and get strategy design and then put it on the shelf. And strategy has to be from the street to the street, meaning from the C-level executives to the frontline managers. That's where strategy lives. That's where strategy must live.
Mhm.
So if you don't get that right, then it's hard for you to bring AI in, because what you think you're using AI as putting out fires, you're being very tactical. You're not being strategic. Part of the strategic component could be allow your people to use AI, or at least adopt certain tools and make that tool to be the organization de facto tool for people to use. That way, people don't go into the internet leveraging, some deep seek tools. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, right? I mean, if you don't know what people are using, then that's when you bring the risk into your organization. But adopt a tool for people to use. That way, not only the tool that is learning about your organizations, to Debody's point earlier, the high performers are pretty much teaching the tool what high performing is, and the low performers hopefully can leverage that. And again, be smart about it. You can really bridge the gap between your strategic planning implementation to really reducing that gap with the implementation that can go good or that can go bad.
Yeah, and I'm really happy to hear that, which brings me back to the point. There was another question that came up about training to learn more about AI. And I want to just redirect our audience back to one of the trainings that we know of that is very familiar to us through PMI Institute. And they have many courses available, especially on the topic of generative AI, that you guys can check out. There is a fee if you're not a member versus no fee if you are a member to PMI. So I would encourage people to go visit www.pmi.org and look through some of their online courses that they have, some of the white papers, the articles that are available to you, that you can kind of just, peruse and then just read more on the topic around AI as it relates to our topic today, which again is the Beyond the Buzz, the strategic PMO leadership in the age of practical AI implementation. And I want to thank again our guest, Debony Lewis, who is the CEO of Aimwell Enterprise. It was such a pleasure to have you join us today.
Thank you.
Our co-host, Dr. Jimmy Goddard, who is also with us today. And I'm just going to now allow Debony to close us out with any final words that she may have. And her contact information is also streaming across the bottom of the screen if you would like to get in contact with Debony here on LinkedIn or via email. So Debony, any final words that you want to share with us today?
Yeah, I think, again, I'm just going to circle back to it's just crucial for an organization to understand what they're trying to solve and the strategy in which AI can aid. And with that, be optimistic with all of the possibilities of AI, and also be very skeptical with the outputs of AI as we continue to learn and grow with this new tool that we have. So thank you again for the opportunity here. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully I get it back for another topic later on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Debony, before you leave, I'm going to throw something
Yes.
at you real quick.
Okay.
Being our guest here, I would like to ask you, can you ask us a question that our next guest will have to answer?
Oh, man. Okay. Back at you, though. What is the topic of the next
Oh, no, it doesn't matter.
seminar?
It's irrelevant.
It does
of
not
the
matter?
topic.
Okay.
What is one question you want our next guest to answer?
A question I want the next guest to answer.
From the top of your mind. Don't think too hard.
Okay. Let's see. I would be curious, I guess, as to what are some of the key problems that you see in your industry that you believe that AI could help you solve?
Oh, that's a good
Awesome.
one. I like that. That's a good one.
That.
That is a really good one. What a way to go out. Again, if you want to contact Debony Lewis on LinkedIn or via email, her information is streaming across the bottom of the screen. Again, Debony, such insightful information that you share with us today. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. and for coming on. And we actually look forward to having you back with us here in the near future, per se.
Sounds good. Okay.
For some more exciting topics that we have coming up here later on. Our next webinar is going to be held on Saturday, September 13th, since we already kind of started talking about, what are some of the questions that we will want to ask our next guest. Our next webinar, if you want to go ahead and mark it on your calendar, is going to be on Saturday, September 13th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll be coming back here live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook again. If you'd like to register, you may do so through our page on LinkedIn, the business page on LinkedIn, through Project Management Learning Center. We'll be more than happy to receive your reservation there. Or you can register directly on our website at www.pmlearningcenter.com. So Saturday, September 13th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can register with us online there. So let me go ahead and slip it over to Dr. Jimmy and put his contact information up here. And Dr. Jimmy, any final words that you would like to leave us with today on such a passionate topic that you have around AI?
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Dr. Susie, and also Dabney. Thank you for joining us to share this message to our audience. And I would like to remind people and who join us, we want to say thank you to you who have provided us. If you're on the West Coast, we're looking at very early in the morning. If you are international, it's probably even mid of the day. Whatever it is for you. I just want to say thank you for allowing us to get into your ears. And I would like to say PMO is no longer just, I would say, something that's going to stay abstract. It's something that's going to become very relevant. And we really need to transform this notion being from a support function into being a dispensable navigation system for an entire organization. I would encourage everyone to come back to this forum to educate yourself. As a matter of fact, please share this with at least three to 5 people. So, when you're getting good knowledge, don't just hold it to yourself. Share with other folks as well. Because the more we create an environment that is very educated with these tools, the more we will get the more benefit out of those tools. And on this note, I would say, keep learning.
Awesome. Powerful ending. So again, if you would like to get in touch with Dr. Jimmy, you can reach him on LinkedIn as well as YouTube, and check out some of his wonderful videos that are out there. Very powerful educational videos that will guide you not only through PMO, but also through AI. This is one of his hot topics, and I'm so glad that we were able to indulge in this topic today, Dr. Jimmy. So thanks again. I just want to remind you guys again, for those that didn't catch it the first time, it's going to be on Saturday, September 13th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. If you want to register, you may do so at www.pmlearningcenter.com. Also, if you would like to learn more about some of the trainings that we offer at PMLC and other services that we provide, you may reach us at the phone number below or at training@pmlearningcenter.com. Again, I'm Dr. Susie Joseph here with you from PMLC Global Nexus, our co-host, Dr. Jimmy Godard, and our dynamic guest today, Debony Lewis. We are so grateful for having you. My last and final comments around this is just not to forget about the compliance along with the accountability that comes with AI. It's so easy for us to let something or someone else to do the thinking for us, but we want to keep structure and standard and integrity around the work that we do. So with that being said, I just want to thank you guys again for joining us. Don't forget to join us again on Saturday, September 13th at 10 a.m. And thank you all for coming along with us today, Dr. Jimmy and Debony. And you guys have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Remember, you manage tasks, but you lead people.